Hey guys, as promised, here's my face reveal. I'm just playing, but that's who we're covering today. We're covering the one and only Street Debates, Eliezer Perez. Why wasn't he deported? But this guy was on the Dr. Mike versus 820 anti-vaxxers on Jubilee, and it was just hard. It was a tough watch looking at that half-loaded in beard. But I wouldn't generally have a problem with this because he seemed pretty good faith, but until he went on to X afterwards and acted like he dunked on Dr. Mike. And I think the worst one of all is when he said that, oh, I just want to debate in good faith. Can we have a long dialogue, Dr. Mike? After calling him a fake expert. But for better context, I'll just play a clip.
Who is the author of misinformation?
Yeah, so misinformation, first off, is predicated on the fact that there's right information. Right information can be predicated on the fact that there's absolute truth. Does science state absolute truth?
There's no absolute truth, period. What I consider someone who would be a good fit and not a public health threat to lead the agency is someone who's aware that facts can expire, they can change, they can adapt, but they have sound logic as to why they make those decisions, and they don't make statements carelessly with bad information, knowingly bad information.
So if truth is provisional, this means that science, that right now you can be pro-vax, and next year when you see sufficient evidence, you can be anti-vax, correct?
You could.
So if there's no absolute truth within this realm, I don't know why we should completely rule out RFK Jr. and the other experts that he can appeal to.
The reason I rule him out is because he takes information that is not true, like that poppers cause AIDS.
Subjectively true.
It's not subjectively true.
For the time being, because you just said it's provisional truth, meaning it can change with time.
Right, but you can create any sort of statement, and in healthcare, we can't just go off of any statement because someone feels subjectively to be true. We have to do our best to do with limited information that we can. That doesn't mean we have zero information, we should just believe anyone.
Okay, fat bitch, let me philosophy monkey, bro. So the idea you're presenting is assuming that if absolute doesn't exist, all truths are going to be subjective, which is wrong because the subjective truth in philosophy is mind-dependent, meaning it can't exist outside the mind, which scientific truths, like Dr. Mike said, are based on research which is outside of our minds, because facts don't care about your feelings. But anyways, I'll break it down even further for your incredibly thick skull. For example, the Earth orbiting the Sun is something we would consider to be true based on data, and we didn't always consider that to be true. Doesn't mean the proposition the Earth rotates around the Sun is subjective and wasn't always true. Based on our understanding of the natural world, we figured out the previous understanding was false, meaning that there's going to be truths that are going to be independent of the mind, like the proposition that the Earth rotates around the Sun. Anyways, let's look more into this low IQ gremlin. So he's selling a debate course, even though he knows nothing about philosophy, for $75 an hour. Okay, I'm wondering if anybody actually is going to buy this or not, because $75 an hour is a ridiculous price. You could buy an entire debate course for that. That's not even true, actually. You could buy a debate course way less than that. And his website, unironically, is called Street Debates, where he'll go onto college campuses and harass unsuspecting students that know like nothing and don't know how to communicate well. And that's how he like dunks on people and gets these clips on YouTube. But anyways, here's one of them, and we'll deconstruct it after we're done walking.
What is your position on this?
I mean, first off, a little introducing myself. I'm involved a lot in campus politics, and I'm also a transgender woman.
Oh, wow.
I have a lot of friends who are transgender. It is a universally positive thing. It is, to these people, a matter of life and death. I know people who, frankly, just would have killed themselves if they did not receive this health care, this gender-affirming care. We have seen in states that have banned gender-affirming care for minors, increases in suicide rates of from a minimum of 7 to a maximum of 70%.
How would you know that that's not a causation correlation fallacy within those rates? Let's say you found 10 counties that didn't affirm it, and then you see a higher rate. How would you know that's directly attributed to this?
Well, I mean, I can't necessarily prove correlation for anything.
How do you know that there's not a correlation fallacy? I feel like I'm taking a dildo out my ass. But anyways, you can prove it because if you look at studies with gender dysphoria and depression rates and suicide rates, you'll be able to see that people who don't get the right gender affirming care are going to commit on a higher rate than people who do get the right gender affirming care. You dumbass. Now listen, he isn't that insufferable so far. But I think this clip will prove he's one of the most insufferable debaters that's ever existed out there. I'll let it roll. He was debating Parker in this video, by the way.
There's no problem. Okay, oh, you fucking dishonest fuck. I know your girlfriend's a tranny, but calm down, okay? There's no problem.
Okay, get the fuck off my live. Yeah, get mad. You get the fuck off my live. Don't use slurs like that on my live. Anyone who says slurs gets kicked off my live.
There's something about his laugh that is just... Oh my god. Look at this. He looks like a lizard. Okay, let me show a side-by-side comparison between the two so you can see what I'm talking about. Look at this, and now look at that. They're the same image. And it just illustrates how he was dropped in the head as a child multiple different times. He's talking about how Parker's girlfriend's ugly, but I don't think he's one to speak about girlfriends being ugly because I know he's never going to get one. When he looks like a lizard and laughs like that with a half-loaded in beard. Like, what is this? Like, how are you gonna talk shit and look like this? Now, for those who are gonna be like, oh, you don't show your face. Yeah, I'll show my face if he actually accepts the debate request I sent him on Twitter. I commented on his Parker video. He responded with his casual, who TF are you? He's acting like he's famous because he got famous off one Jubilee episode. And then I asked him again, you're running away. I have just as much credibility as any of his other college students. He tells me to send me his resume, like the dork he is. And after I drilled it into his retarded brain for a second time to make sure he would understand, he decided to say, so in other words, you're fucking nobody got it. Keep crying and wait in line, buddy. Daddy will get to you when I say so. You hear me, boy? Like, how... This is just the worst. I don't even know how to respond to something like that. So I responded like this. Thank you to B, who called him out on this as well. There's not a line waiting to debate him. He goes into TikTok lives and goes into college campuses with unsuspecting people and says, hey, women can't vote. And won't actually debate anybody else on this. He's running away. He's obviously a coward. But if you're watching this, EZR, soon to be deported to El Salvador, how about let's have a one-on-one debate? Go ahead. Stop being a coward. Stop being a pussy. And thank you for all those who watch this video. And please get him to debate me, because I want to give him intellectual backshots like he's never received before.